Today's guest is Sandra Morgan, founder of Morgan Media and Publishing, a boutique hybrid publishing house helping authors turn expertise into lasting impact. With over 60 years of combined industry experience behind her firm, Sandra leads a team that guides authors from manuscript to market with transparency, professionalism, and heart. Please welcome Sandra Morgan to Finally Seen. Hi, Sandra. Welcome.
Hey, how are you?
So happy you're here on this podcast because it's called Finally Seen, and a book is a great way to actually be finally seen, share your ideas, share your story, all of those things. And so obviously what better of a person to come on the show than you with a publishing house. So, having worked with you on books as well, I know that your answers are going to be good. You've got great advice. You know what you're talking about. So I thought we would just dive right in. It said hybrid, and I'm sure right off the bat, people are like, what the heck is a hybrid publisher? So why don't you go ahead and start with that and tell us the difference between a hybrid and traditional and just straight up like self-publishing.
Okay, so there's different types of publishing, which most people really don't understand. They think that a publishing house is just a publishing house. So there's traditional publishing, where you submit your manuscript to the company, and 9 times out of 10, especially the larger ones, you get turned down. You get rejection letters after rejection letters after rejection letters. They will take your book on a very rare occasion, only if they think it's going to make them a lot of money.
Right.
And so that's why they'll take the book. And you basically turn everything over to them. You have nothing to say. You have no input on the cover. You have no input on the editing. You have no input on anything. They take it and just turn it into what they want it to be. And even your voice can be altered. When I say your voice in the book. So that can be altered, and you have no choice over it.
I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that. I have friends who have gone with traditional publishers for their first book, and they are not doing that for their next ones. They are going to hybrid option.
Yeah. It's great in a sense that if you do publish with a traditional publisher, they will push your book out there, and they've got the big shop and all that kind of stuff and all the tools at their beck and call. However, you've lost complete control over it.
I couldn't imagine, especially if I didn't like an aspect of the book, having to go out there and do the press and do the marketing.
Yeah.
That would just feel so icky.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. And that's what a lot of authors come across, but they jump on board because they want their book out there.
Right. Or they think there's going to be a ton of money in it.
Right. They think they're going to make $1 million. They think they're going to be, the next Harry Potter book or, something like that. And those are very rare, to be honest. Those are very rare. So, and then there is a vanity press, which is basically they will take your book no matter what. The editing process is very lax. And so they just put your book out there. They want your money, and then they say, okay, goodbye. And you go on your way. You do all the marketing. You do all the things on your own. Leave us alone. We don't want to hear from you again. And it's always nickel and diming. They say, well, it's going to cost this much money to publish your book. And, but you want that, it's the old, you want that added on, kind of like building a house, and you're going to have to pay on top of what you've already paid. And there's always that happening. So that's a vanity press. And that's where even a hybrid company will get bad press because they think that a hybrid is the same as a vanity press. We are not.
Yes.
So we are a hybrid company, a hybrid publishing company. What that means is we base everything kind of on a traditional publishing house. We don't take every manuscript. We're very picky about our manuscripts. We do not take over. Your voice is heard. You have a say-so over the cover. We don't change. Only change that we do to the interiors, we edit for punctuation, grammar, if it's flow and things like that. And we will bring those to your attention and tell you that we think you should make this change. However, if you don't want to do that, then we move forward. But we are very picky about our books that we do take. We turn down more manuscripts than we've accepted. So that kind of differs us from a vanity press, kind of more on the traditional side.
Right.
With a hybrid company, you do pay a fee up front for the publishing services, publishing and editing, and book cover design, illustrations, things like that that go into the book. That includes your ISBN number, your Library of Congress number, includes the copyright. It includes anything that has to do with putting your book out there. However, you are in complete control.
Right. And that's what I like to tell people a lot of times when they ask me, and I'll say, you know, somebody has to format the book. Somebody has to edit the book. Someone has to do all the metadata. There is a lot of work that goes involved. So it's either you as the author, you can either do it all yourself or find a whole bunch of different people who are going to do it and manage that whole project.
Right.
Or you can pay somebody who's been there, done that a million times and can do it smoothly.
And a lot faster than you can.
Yeah, faster, exactly.
Yeah, a lot faster than you can, and it saves you time. It saves you headaches. I had an author contact me the other day, and she's already had a published book, and she said it was a nightmare trying to figure out all of that stuff for herself on her own, and it only got put out onto Amazon. Gone anywhere else. It hasn't done anything else, you know, so she's had to do all this on her own, and it's been a learning experience, but she's decided that this round she wants to, you know, have someone else do it. Yeah. It's just much easier.
Even myself, I know all the aspects, obviously. I'm not doing that myself.
No. And I know people who have been published before who have self-published that are now going, you know, it's just it. And the problem is that when you self-publish, the book goes nowhere. Because now not only have you gone through the hassle of getting it, you know, published and all the pieces that go into that, now you're responsible solely for promoting your book. Mm-hmm. You don't have anybody helping you. And that's why the majority of books don't go anywhere.
You know, one thing that I think is often surprising for authors is they think if they go with that traditional publisher that one, they're going to get that money up front, but that the publisher is going to do a lot of marketing and publicity for them. And that's just not the case. You know, maybe if you're an A-lister like George Clooney or something,
right.
But not us regular people. It just doesn't happen. And even, you know, even sometimes when you are pitching to, like, let's say the literary agent wants to take your pitch, a lot of times they want to know up front, what are you going to do marketing wise? What is your publicity plan? And you've got to have a lot figured out before you even give them your manuscript, which, you know, I would love it if people already had that figured out anyway when they submit a book, because that would be lovely. I posted recently that I have a book is not a marketing plan. Like, just releasing the book, that's not a marketing plan. That's not going to do it. The whole build it and they will come, it doesn't work.
No, it's not. And I have like I was telling you a few minutes ago, this wonderful author. She has a beautiful book, and it's been published. We'll be doing the second edition and you know, that kind of stuff. They are stunning books, but they've gone nowhere. Nowhere. They've gone nowhere. She has been schlepping books around in her trunk, you know, and sending them out from her home and everything. And it's too much. It's too much. It doesn't, it just becomes too difficult. So.
And, you know, if you've got a lot of time and that's, you know, you don't have anything else to do, sure, go for it. But
if you can be a full-time author, and that's all you have to do, and you can go out and you can contact all the bookstores, you can contact podcasts, you can do all those things to get your book out there, then by all means, you know, that's definitely a way to go. But,
yeah. And, you know, I don't think a lot of people take this into consideration too. Like, if you go to just a printing press and you're going to go contact all these bookstores yourself and whatnot, you're still going to fork over 12 to 15 grand for your inventory.
Absolutely. So, this lady was telling me that she said because she purchases the books first, and if they don't sell, then she's stuck with that purchase and can't make anything on them. And it's just the fact that the printing costs, the shipping costs, her time, and that's a lot of things that the authors don't take into consideration either, is being paid for their time.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, because
Well, and I think a lot of people don't think about what happens when their book gets in a store as well. And I didn't realize it when I first got into it. My book was out in 2010. And had I not had a publisher guiding me, I probably would have gotten really screwed up because I was going to sign a deal to have my book in one of the major stores. I mean, it was a major store. And then as we got to looking at the contract, it said that they could return my books in any condition,
yes,
any amount of books for a full refund.
yes,
I would have been
not the printing cost refund.
Yeah, no, the full refund. So that could have been a nightmare.
Yeah, plus shipping.
Yeah. So we'd opted out of that. And, sure, that meant I didn't get the sales there, but who knows where that could have ended. So, it's like, that's another thing that reason why it's important that you're having someone actually guide you who can watch out for you. Same with I was taking my children's book and having it pitched for a children's series, a cartoon. And again, having that publisher guide me through that. Oh, no, you don't want to sign that because you're about to sign away your tertiary, revenue or rights. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, so it's really, really important that you have somebody knowledgeable and
that's the problem too. They sign contracts that they don't read or they don't have a lawyer look at. And they get themselves into situations where they completely lose rights to anything. As far as their book is concerned, they have no rights, none, no television, no movie, no audio, no nothing. They have nothing.
Yep. Recently, I'm in a bunch of Facebook groups with authors and whatnot, and I see everyone is so eager, and I love that they're so eager about their books. But this one lady posted one recently, and she just couldn't understand why her book wasn't selling. And she's trying all these things. She says she's done, quote unquote, all the marketing things, but it's just not selling. And I think there were over 100 posts of your book sucks, essentially, on there. I guess it didn't look like she had it proofread even. There was AI. I mean, I felt really bad for her because people were roasting her, but I was like, ugh, I know that's got to be heartbreaking for her to hear because she probably loves the book.
Yeah. Well, it's your babies, It's your books are your babies. And sometimes we have blinders on where it's concerned and we think it's the best thing since sliced bread. And it's really not. And no one has been honest enough with you to tell you that, it needs work. And well, I will tell you that the books that we have turned away, we have given them a reason why. We've given them a breakdown of why. We're never mean. We're never, or anything like that. We're just basically telling them ways that if they want to bring it back, then these are the steps they're going to need to take to change the tone of the book or to change, misspelled words and things like that. Because I will guarantee you, if you submit a manuscript like that to a traditional publishing company, it will never see the light of day.
Yeah.
Never.
And that's a really big blessing that y'all give to authors is that feedback. That's another thing I see in the groups all the time. When people say they've gotten rejection followed by a here's why, and from a literary agent, and everybody's always commenting, oh my gosh, you're so lucky you even got a reply.
But that's the thing. Most times you submit your manuscript and you're lucky if you do get a reply. It's just, and to me, it's very cruel because you've got them sitting out there going, well, what happened?
And I'm sure it's really hard to reply to all of them, but hopefully with AI, maybe they can get some sort of an AI, like push the button no, and then it sends out a no, thank you.
Yeah. Well, they do have that.
Oh, good.
And it's out there. I could be using it, but I choose not to. But if you think about it, the traditional book publishing companies, they get thousands of manuscripts.
Yeah.
That get sent to them. So they have to be picky and choosy. And if they read, I will tell you, I had a traditional publisher tell me one time, she goes, if in the first 3 paragraphs of reading your manuscript, I find 1 or 2 grammatical or spelling mistakes, I don't even go any further.
Yeah.
That's tough.
I mean, I don't blame them though. I wouldn't want to
No.
waste my time.
That's tough. So,
And with AI, I know a lot of people use AI for checking their spelling and things like that. But I can tell you that I've started getting submissions myself, or I can see things that people send me and I know it's written by AI.
yeah.
And I'm like, okay, guys, we can use it.
Telltale sign. I'm going to tell people using AI to write your manuscript. What they have to understand is that there is coding that is embedded into these manuscripts that AI is creating. So it's not like if you go and take that and put it into a book, Amazon's going to be able to tell. And then another telltale sign of an AI written book is they use a lot of M dashes.
Yeah, lots of M.
Love M dashes.
I love a good M dash myself, so I've altered the way I write because of that. But in a world where, and the truth of it is that
and they have all these phrases that they use, and so you have to be really careful. You can't just go, AI, write this book for me, and then turn it in. If it's okay to have AI help you, to help you, but you need to take what AI has written and rewrite it yourself in your voice. And, you just need to be really careful. And then with AI created book covers.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no. But a lot of people are doing it and it's so obvious.
Yeah, I see a bunch of children's books in those groups where people have posted, and maybe I'm too much of a purist on that, and I love non-AI artwork, but I feel like there's a time and a place for AI art, and in a physical book, that's not it.
No. Especially in children's books.
Yeah.
Especially in children's books. And I understand that the illustrations are probably one of the most expensive parts of getting your book put together, especially a children's book that requires a lot of illustrations. So,
yeah. But you know what? I know that some people are just going to do it regardless, but they'll have to learn the hard way.
No, and they are. I mean, they're pumping them out left and right. So,
yeah. And the thing that's a little bit murky with AI too is that, the question is, can you actually copyright something done with AI because it learned from other copywritten things?
Right.
So that's a little murky, and I'm not an attorney, so I can't speak on that, but I don't even want to jump in that water.
No. And the thing of it is honestly, Chrissy, there is no original content anymore.
True.
Everything has been plagiarized and everything has been taken from somebody else who wrote something. Ooh, I like the way they said that. Let me change a word or two. Mm. But it's still, there is no original content with the invention of the internet. Original content went away. I mean, it's, yes, we want to believe that we are this wonderful, amazing writer, and we're going to come up with a brand new book that has nothing that has been copied from anybody else, or because even if it's in your subconscious mind, and it comes out on your paper, who knows, where we got it. So AI takes it to an extreme level. But
I was thinking the other day about this, because a lot of the stuff is starting to look the same. Everybody's posts are looking the same. And one thing you can do to differentiate, to make it clear that this was not AI written, is to get specific.
Yes.
Like I'm sitting at my podcast desk, but talk about specifics of my podcast desk.
Right.
Things like that. Because AI is not necessarily going to know that. It would just say podcast desk.
No. Right. And and that's why I was saying, if you get AI to help you write, that's fine. But you have to take it and put it in your voice, and you have to personalize it. You have to make it yours and not just, AI vomit it out there, and then slap it into a book and call it a day. AI makes mistakes,
Yes, actually, I was just reading something this morning, and AI had spit out a whole bunch of books written by famous authors, supposedly, but they hadn't actually written the books it said. And these were well-known authors. And I was thinking, oh, when I saw that, I went, oh gosh, that's a big deal.
Yeah. And honestly, a lot of the scammers that are from, other countries are doing this kind of stuff. They're grabbing a famous author's name and doing an AI book and putting it on there and getting the money from it.
I actually had that happen with my stuff. Somebody had taken stuff from my website, stuff from that I had written elsewhere online, combined it in a book and popped it up on Amazon. One of my friends bought a copy because she wanted to see it. And I was like, oh, great. They probably made more money off the copy than I.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, you have to be careful. You have to be diligent. You have to do your homework. You can't just sit there and just depend. We need to be careful that we don't become so dependent on AI that we lose the ability to think for ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually watching, I love a good Hallmark movie. Well, good. I love a Hallmark movie.
I do too.
I love that, I know it's going to end up well at the end. So
especially at Christmas.
Yeah.
I love it.
So I was watching one of the newer Hallmark movies and, they love to talk about the book side of things, the book industry, and everybody becomes a famous author and whatnot. Yes. But one thing I noticed that they were talking about in this particular one was the critics were saying this person, it was supposed to be about Barcelona. And they said, this person doesn't even seem like they've ever been to Barcelona. And, the author's reply was, well, I went on the internet. That's what the internet's for. And, so she researched and, I won't give away the movie because it's a brand new one, but the way that they show success at the end, shows you the difference between actually experiencing something, then writing about it versus just doing research and not having experience.
Because the place might not even exist anymore.
Right. And, and even if you if
it hasn't been there forever.
And let's say you wanted to write about Paris and you couldn't go to Paris, maybe interview other people who are in Paris.
Right. At least do that part.
Yeah. I actually have been approached for books where they want to interview me for particular aspects of their book. And I'm always up for that. I think that's cool.
Sure.
So tell me about the timeline, because, I'm sure everyone has seen those Facebook ads. Oh, get your book out by next weekend, or write a book in 30 days. And, sure, can you write one in 30 days? Possibly. Depends on what you're writing about. I know I wrote my nonfiction book rather quickly. Is it still published? No, because I wrote it rather quickly. So there's a reason why it's not still available. But what's the process realistically like for people?
It's I'm going to say it, and I know you're not going to like it. It all depends. So let's say I have okay, I'm going to give you some examples of people that we're working with right now. I have an author who has written the story. The story is complete, except for editing. So we'll have to do that process. But the illustrations, she has 0 illustrations done.
Okay. Those could take a while.
And it's a children's book. And it's going to be at least, 1 illustration per chapter.
Okay.
So, and the cover and, that kind of stuff. So the illustrations will probably take until October.
Okay.
To get those completed, to get them done, get them approved, get them put into a cover. And then we have to go in and lay out the book. So while they're working on the illustrations, we're working on the editing process, flow and syntax, all the things that go into the editing process. So we'll be working on that while the illustrator's going through, and we'll probably be through the editing process before the illustrator's done.
Yeah.
So once the illustrator's done, then the layout of the book has to happen. The illustrations have to go into the book. Then it has to be formatted into a file that can be sent to the printing company, to Ingram Spark. And then it has to get approved there. And then you have to get a copy because you want to make sure that it looks right.
Yes.
You don't want to just say push print and let it go because you don't know. You don't know. So you want to get a copy of a proof copy. So that has to come back. Then everybody reads through that again and finds mistakes if there are any. And the whole process can take sometimes for that deep of a process can probably take about 8 months, 6 to 8 months.
And that sounds about right because, I always tell people kind of plan on a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Between like your idea and writing and then everything else a year. And, that's also one reason why I tell people to start talking about their book, start marketing it, like just get it out there too, because it also keeps you accountable. Like if I say, hey, I'm writing this book and 6 months later, I've not mentioned anything about it, somebody's probably going to go, hey, are you still writing that book?
And that happens.
Yeah.
And so you have to be careful. And then it becomes book fatigue, people sit there and go, yeah, you're writing your book, you're writing your book, you're writing your book. So you need to be you need to be careful about that too. And then you go into the ghostwriting. So let's say you haven't written a book yet.
Yeah.
And you don't want to write the book, you want someone to write it for you. The ghostwriting process, that can definitely take a year. That will definitely take at least 12 to 18 months, depending on how quickly the process goes. And
right, because you've got to get the story from the person or the information, and then the ghostwriter has to put it together. And there's no shame in getting a ghostwriter whatsoever. I know some people get embarrassed, and I'm like, absolutely not. If you think some of these celebrities out there actually wrote their books,
they don't. And even I'm going to put this out there too. Some of the more famous authors out there have ghostwriters.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that they pump that many books out there so fast? It's next to impossible.
Yeah,
it just is. So
and it's still your ideas. It's still your
voice. It's everything, and that's what a good ghostwriter does. They take your words and your voice and what you want it to be like, and they put it into a book for you. And that's where a good ghostwriter comes in. But that process can take a long time.
Yeah.
Depending on how quickly and how easily the writer and the author can work together to get it pushed out there.
When it comes to books themselves, I need to put out another book, and I'm working on it. I've got a few that I've been working on. I was just working on everybody else's books too. Same with you.
Yeah, I have time for my own.
Cobbler and the cobbler's shoes.
No.
When it comes to, books, we get a lot of people who they want to speak, and a book is a brilliant way to book yourself as a speaker. Because I guarantee you, myself included, let's say there are two of us that are, all of our skills are, everything is equal, but only one of us has a book. They're going to hire the one with a book.
And she's the one that's going to get the speaking engagements because it gives them clout.
Yep.
It gives them some prestige, whereas the other one, it does not. Because the fact of the matter is if you can put a book out there, you've accomplished something. I don't care if you wrote it or not.
It is a project that you are undertaking, and it's one that takes intention. It's one that takes a lot of thought, and you have to have some sort of creativity or thought leadership, or something has to be there in order to put that book together, even if you've self-published, because we're assuming it's a good book. Let's get that out there. But even a fiction,
you're bleeding on paper.
Yeah.
Whenever you're writing a book, you are putting yourself out there for the scrutiny of millions of people.
Yeah.
And so it can be very daunting. However, if you are a speaker, or you have a podcast, or you have a business or something like that, and you need to be out in front of people speaking, you need a book.
That's another reason why I started this podcast now, is because I don't have time to necessarily write my book, but I'm using this to test out my topics for my next book, test out, things that my messages for what I want my next book. So it's helping me in creating that book. So yes, it's a podcast now, but I'm also playing that long game for 2026, 2027, maybe 2026.
That's what you have to do.
Yeah. And there was one guy that I learned from years ago. he was already a speaker. He had had a TV career, so getting speaking gigs for him wasn't that hard. But he didn't have a book. So he started taking his keynotes, transcribing them, and then just zhuzhing them up for a book.
Yeah.
And he has, I think, like 20 books now.
Brilliant.
So I know whenever he shared that with me, I was like, dang, that's genius.
It is because he's got the material already there.
Mm-hmm.
And all he has to do is take it and just manipulate it a little bit and put it out there.
You know, I've ghostwritten several things in the past, and I remember one of the projects that I did, I thought it was really cool. It was essentially like a giant research project because he just sent me all of his research.
Mm-hmm.
I put it together as a manuscript.
Right.
And that was one of my more challenging projects, I have to say. But I thought the process was just fine, you know?
Any kind of technical book is always going to be different. That's another thing, too, is that, you know, when we're talking about how long of a process a technical book is going to take at least a year.
Yeah.
If you're not writing it yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're having to transfer your knowledge into someone else's brain. And, you know.
The way that I've also done it in the past that I really like is when the person will, at the time, it was just a voice memo. Now you could do Zoom and record it, you know. But getting those audio files and being able to listen to them is always really helpful for me because I can get the person's
voice,
you know, their voice. Yeah. What words do they use all the time?
Right.
That sort of thing. And, you know, it's funny. One of our clients that we have, I keep telling him he needs to write a book, and he's a radio personality. So I know his voice really well now because I've worked with him for so long, but I also do listen to him on the radio. So now I know the words he uses all the time. So I keep telling him he needs to write a book.
Write a book.
I think he's working on it, but he has a podcast. So first step, we're getting there.
Tired of overpriced energy drinks full of junk? Same. That's why I use Babello, a self-carbonating hydration packet that gives you clean energy, electrolytes, and vitamins without the crash. Just add water, shake, and sip. It's way more affordable than typical energy drinks and way better for you. Use code ChrissyBernal15 at checkout to get 15% off at drinkbabello.com. Hydration just got an upgrade.
I remember your story for actually how you kind of got into this. You ended up with a not so great experience. Your most recent time before you opened your own thing. Tell me about that.
It was awful.
Okay, let's go a little deeper.
It was 15 years ago.
Okay.
I co-authored a book with a friend of mine, I thought. And we co-authored a book, but she was also the publisher. And it was a traditional publishing house.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And what the book was initially intended to be was not what the final product was. The cover was not what it was supposed to be. The inside of the book was not what it was supposed to be. Everything was turned around and created and made into something completely different than what it was supposed to be. And I had no say over it. Zero. I had no say over the cover. I had no say over what she changed inside the book. I had nothing. I had zero.
Wow.
Control over it. And I don't know what's happened with the book. It was on Amazon. I haven't even looked anymore. I've never received one penny. And
wow.
No reports of any kind, no royalty reports. I've never received anything like that. And basically she just hijacked the book and
wow.
Name.
Interesting.
So that was a very, very bad experience. So that's why I was talking to a friend one day and I said, I don't want, that's awful. It's horrible to have, because you're so excited, it's your baby, and you're so excited about your book, and you want everybody else to be excited about it. And then something like that happens and it damages you, you're afraid. So I didn't want anybody else to have to do that. And I'd already kind of been dabbled in the publishing part anyway. I had the women's magazine at the time. Mm-hmm. And so I'd already done that. And so I thought, well, I had a marketing company that I was running, and everything just kind of meshed into itself. And I thought, well, why not open a publishing company and not treat people so badly?
Novel idea.
Yeah, it's not necessary. You can make the process and the experience something wonderful for these people, something fun, and help them make some money and bring their name out there. Why wouldn't you do that instead of destroying somebody? I don't understand that.
Yeah, 100%. You said something too. Oh, so it's a little bit of a tangent, but you started another company after the age of 60. I mean, most people would think that's crazy, especially since you already had another company. So tell me, were your kids like, Mom, are you nuts?
Oh no, my kids just kind of sit there now and just go, okay, Mom. Okay, sure you are. That's what you're doing. Of course you are.
Yeah. I think I don't think I'll ever really stop and not do. I'll always have to do something myself, I think.
Then people say, well, because I'm 69, I'm just going to put that out there.
Which you don't look it.
And that's young. That's young. I refuse to say that that's anywhere. But I think that once we stop,
Yes,
that's when we get old and we stop using our brains. We stop learning new things. We stop doing and our brain kind of shuts down. Our bodies shut down. And I just don't, that's not who I am. I've been let's just get on and we'll build the plane as we go.
yes.
I'm not one to sit there and say, okay, well, all these things have to be lined up first and then we'll go. But I am more of okay, well, this is a concept. Let's get started and we'll figure out all the little pieces as we get it going. So
I love that. And that's one of the things that I stress a lot to people because especially with women, I see that we tend to wait until we feel like something's perfect before we move forward. And so I know, especially with books, people will be, oh, well, I want to have it done perfect before I put it out there. And I always tell everybody there's not ever going to be a perfect book. You're always going to find a typo. You're always going to find a grammatical issue or, there's always going to be something in any book you pick up.
Yes. You will get in this loop. If you keep doing that, you'll get in this always be editing loop.
Oh gosh, yes.
And you won't ever be able to get out of it. And so you've got to put it down on paper. Try not to edit it yourself. Get someone else to look at it, even if it's a friend, to look at it and get yourself out of it because you will get in that loop. I've seen it happen too many times where you get into this, I can't stop editing it. And then it ends up being a terrible book.
Yep.
You've edited too much of yourself out of it.
You said something and it made me think of, so I've one of my books that I have 36,000 words written in, I have gone back and forth between making it fiction or making it based on true events.
Okay.
And thankfully I'm aware of legalities and things like that, but many authors are not.
Good.
And so I think that's another important reason to have either go with a traditional publisher or a hybrid who can guide you in those legalities, especially if you're dealing with real stories, because there's some real stuff that can happen there. I've seen it too, where they'll quote song lyrics, but not put the proper documentation.
Mm-hmm.
Same with quotations, or snippets from other people's books.
Yes, you have to be really careful. Because you can get yourself, and not only yourself, if you have a publisher, you can get your publisher in big trouble really quick. I can't imagine a publisher letting that slide, but, it does happen. But if you're self-publishing, that can happen. I've seen it happen,
Mm-hmm.
where they have done something and it's come back to bite them with someone saying, hey, you use something from my song or use something from my book or whatever, and you did not give acknowledgement to where you got it. And you have to cite. Things like that. It's a must.
So Sierra, for those listening, I have twins, Sierra and Sienna. And Sierra, the songwriter, she was asked years ago to write a song for a romance novel.
Mhm.
And I just thought that was a really cool idea because the artist didn't want to run into that problem.
Yes, no.
Yeah. So the lyrics are in the novel.
Oh, wow.
And cool. It was really cool because Sierra actually ended up recording the song.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's beautiful. And one of our friends actually chose that as their first wedding dance song. So Sierra went and sang it at the reception. And so I thought that was just really cool that this person's idea years ago ended up giving these people their most amazing, and it is the most perfect song for their story. I mean, Sierra, she wasn't thinking of their story at the time, but you would have thought she was.
Right.
But I just thought it was a really cool idea instead of dealing with the legalities.
Instead just writing on your own.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea. I had never thought about that either. That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah. And, it was cool too because Sierra obviously talked about the book to her audience. And then the author obviously talked about Sierra to her audience. So it was a nice cross pollination. And yeah, I thought it was spectacular. When it comes to fiction versus nonfiction, what are the biggest mistakes you see people make with fiction? I guess.
Make it too unbelievable.
Okay.
You're sitting there reading through it and you're going, no, no, I'm sorry, that doesn't happen. This is not reality, going too far.
Okay.
Just going too far and making it where it's not believable, or lying about something. If you're using an actual town or using something like that in your fiction book, everything to me, it needs to be fiction. It needs to be where you're not. And it's a really fine line, because if you are kind of crossing the border of nonfiction into fiction or fiction into nonfiction, then you have to be careful what you're doing and going too far. I think I read a couple of books where they just went too far, and it's like, no. So
okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And when it comes to covers, what are mistakes that you've seen with covers?
AI.
Yes, that's a given for sure.
AI is definitely a given. You have to make sure that the interior, what's written in the interior, is reflected on the exterior of your book. That's
great. Yeah. Because we all have heard, don't judge a book by its cover, but we all do.
No, you do. Every time I go to buy a book, if the cover and the cover is what attracts me, but if the cover and I go and I read the first little excerpt or whatever, and it doesn't even go with what the cover is telling me, I might go ahead and buy the book, but I'm confused right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
Your cover has to reflect what's on the interior of the book, or at least try to get as close as you can to some concept of what's on the inside of the book, so you're not just bamboozling people, with a cover, and then what's on the inside doesn't even go with it. It has to pop.
Yeah, it has to mesh, and that's a spot where AI could help. Like, let's say you have no idea where to start. So start telling AI, here's what my book is about. I'm thinking of this for the cover. What do you think? And, just bounce ideas off of it, and then take it and give it to an illustrator.
Don't let AI create it. Then take those concepts, those ideas, and take them to an illustrator and have them do it, because then they're going to put the human touch on it. Because AI, as much as it tries really hard to make it look realistic, there are things that you can't, and it's always, you can always tell.
Yeah, always. There was one thing too that I see a lot in these groups. People will create their covers on Canva, which I love Canva. I absolutely love Canva. Yeah. But I always tell people, you probably didn't read their terms and conditions.
Yeah.
If you did, you wouldn't do that, because you cannot copyright stuff you've done in Canva if it uses any element of their premium features.
Right. Now, you can take your illustrations that someone else did for you, and you can create a book cover in Canva.
Yes.
Own, or someone owns the rights to the artwork that you're using to create the book cover.
Yes.
It's like you said, you cannot take what's in Canva, the artwork that's in Canva, and take it and create a book cover out of that, because you cannot copyright that.
Yeah.
And so you can get the concept once again, you can get like AI, you can get the concept from Canva, and then you can take it to an illustrator and say, hey, look, this is what I would like my cover to look like.
Yeah. I like this element. I like this feel, these colors.
Right.
Exactly.
This font, this, all those things.
Oh gosh, the font that opens up a whole can of worms. Please. My big thing is stop using cursive that's hard to read.
Stop using cursive that's hard to read. Stop using the big fat fonts.
Oh, yeah. Or the ones that look like a serial killer stuff, unless you're writing about a serial killer.
Oh, yeah. Unless you're actually writing about a serial killer or a mystery, stay away from those fonts. Yeah.
Yeah. I just see people I feel so bad for these people when they put their stuff in these Facebook groups and they're just getting slammed, but it's all real.
I belong to some publishing groups on Facebook too, where people will go in and post their covers. They'll post the concept of their book. And I mean, people are brutal. Yeah. I mean, just brutal. So, and one lady was on there and she said, oh my gosh, had I known, I wouldn't have joined this group. And I thought to myself, you are in a group of writers, publishers, agents, and you're putting your book out there. What are you expecting?
Well, it's better to get it before she spends more time and money.
Publish it. Get it before you publish it, Take it out there and let people be brutal. Honestly, that's the best way. I mean, it's hard. You got to have a tough hide to do it, but it's one of the good ways to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Sandra, our time flew by, and I know we could talk about this a lot more. There are many, many topics that we could dive into. Tell people how they can get in touch with you and reach out to you.
They can go to our website, morganmediaandpublishing.com, and everything's there. Literally everything is there. They can find out what our process is. They can find out our pricing. They can find out what we do, what type of books we do. They can find out everything on our website.
Awesome. Yeah, that speaks to the transparency part that you found out the hard way yourself working with others. And so I know the transparency.
And we are very transparent. And our authors keep 100% of their royalties.
Oh, that's a big.
And they get PR services for 90 days.
I know that as well. Yeah. So, thank you so much for sharing all these insights. I feel like we were able to get into some of the tactical things that a lot of times people find it so mysterious and they feel like they just can't get truthful answers. And, I want authors to try and find all these things out before they sign contracts. I've worked with so many authors that have come to me after signing a contract only to discover that contract's not very good. Mm-hmm. You're getting bamboozled or you're not really getting what you're paying for. And so
I've seen that happen too many times.
And I also see in these Facebook groups, people will automatically say hybrids are scams. That's not always the case. Some, yes, but
yes, there are some.
Do your research, get to know, ask to look at the other books. If you see books that are on somebody's website, go look at them on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble, or, all these other places, IndieBound, and see, does it look like a good book? Does it have good reviews? Those sorts of things. So yeah. And then I'll caution too. I know that there is a hybrid out there with the name. They use Penguin in their name, and they're getting a lot of people. I can't remember their exact name. But I know that they are positioning themselves as if they are the traditional Penguin one. So yeah, just do your research before you sign. If you have a question about the contract, take it to a lawyer.
Absolutely. And the thing of it is they can go to our website and submit a question too. We're not opposed to answering anybody's questions. It's not just for submitting your manuscript.
I love that. Yeah. Well, Sandra, thank you again. And I'm sure I'll have you back on again because we've got more to talk about. And I guess.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So audience, I will see you next week on Finally Seen.